Welcome to The Seasoned Sonographer, the podcast where experience meets education in the world of OBGYN ultrasound. My name is Lynn Flamm, and I'll be your host. I'm a registered diagnostic medical sonographer with over 32 years of experience, most of that time in OBGYN ultrasound. Through this podcast, I'm here to share insights, tips, and case studies to help you sharpen your skills and optimize your scans. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, this is the place to grow your knowledge and confidence. Let's dive into today's episode. This episode of The Seasoned Sonographer is supported by SONA, Southern Illinois Healthcare, and Roshal Health, organizations committed to advancing ultrasound education and supporting healthcare professionals. Welcome to The Seasoned Sonographer, where we explore the art, science, and impact of ultrasound in patient care. I'm your host, Lynn Flamm, and in today's episode, we're especially excited because we're focusing on something that truly impacts sonographers every day: support, flexibility, and opportunities for growth. Sonographers are highly skilled professionals, but many working in environments where schedules are rigid, onboarding can be limited, and opportunities for advancement aren't always clearly defined. But what if there was a model that not only supported sonographers clinically, but also supported their individual goals, their schedules, and their long-term career growth? Today, we're going to talk about that. I'm joined by Joseph Calomo, Chief Operating Officer of Roshal Health. Joseph, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Before we dive into our discussion with Joe, I want to touch on something I see every day in OBGYN ultrasound, and that's variability. Sonographers are highly trained, but the way exams are performed can vary widely depending on the facility, protocols, and level of support. In OBGYN, that really matters. We're making assessments that directly impact patient care, whether it's identifying an ectopic pregnancy in the first trimester or completing a detailed anatomy scan later in the pregnancy. As for travel sonographers, stepping into those new environments with different expectations, limited onboarding, and new environments only adds to that challenge. What I hear consistently is that sonographers want to feel confident, be supportive, and grow, but they don't always have access to a structured education or a clear path forward. Joe, from your perspective, leading a large and diverse healthcare workforce, let's talk about how Roshal Health is addressing these kinds of challenges. First of all, can you explain to the listeners what is Roshal Health? And the thing that really stands out about Roshal is the flexibility that you offer. Can you talk about how your scheduling model is designed around the individual sonographer and their needs?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, Roshal was actually established 20 years ago, right? It was pretty innovative back then to look at how do we change the paradigm in healthcare, right? So as you know, healthcare is pretty bureaucratic. It's hierarchical, hard to create change within the systems that we work in. And our original founders, the Thomases, said, how do we offer these services differently? So they created this shared service model, which basically means I could be an employee of Roshal and I could service 5, 6, 8 different organizations. Not in a shifted model, but more of I stay at home, and when I get a phone call, I'll go in for that individual patient. So instead of thinking of shifts, we're thinking of going in kind of an on-call model. And that's grown, obviously, over the past 20 years. It's now a tech-enabled platform. Our clients have the ability to place an order on this web-based portal. It then goes out to those sonographers who live within a certain area of that client, who are credentialed at that client. But also it identifies, if it's a vascular study, who are those that are credentialed to do vascular studies. And it goes through that list, and it then sends the message out to them. They accept the order, they drive to the facility, they do the scan, and they go home. They tell us what their mileage was, and we pay them for their mileage and for doing the scan. This has created some, especially if you think of sonography in general, it tends to be more female, tends to be women who, childbearing age, have kids, have a family at home. And this model has really played to that lifestyle of, either I don't want to go work a 12-hour shift 4 days a week. Or if I do have a full-time job and I want to pick up other work, I'm not tied to a 10 or 12-hour shift. I can do it on my terms. And that's what we've kind of created with our model.
Hearing you say that, I'm thinking, so some of this on-demand model, really the on-demand model, is really more of a local radius for these techs. And then in addition, you could travel all over the country?
Yeah. So we are providing services all over the US, and we do have a pool right now of about 30 traveling technologists. But it's not like your typical travel position where it's 13-week assignments. You go away for X amount of time. We've built it around our travelers, right? If you can only do 2 weeks at a time, we find a way to let you travel for 2 weeks and be home for 2 weeks. We have 3-in-1 models. We have 6-in-2 models. We do have I think 1 or 2 that like the 13-week idea, but most of our travelers, we adapt and build the model around their lifestyle.
To me, that is amazing. I mean, you're listening to sonographers and you're giving them what they want and how much they want, and on their own terms, really. That on-demand model is sonographer friendly, family friendly for these people that want to have a balance. Creating educational and growth opportunities for sonographers at Roshal Health is a little different than what most companies provide. Can you tell us about Roshal University, what it is, and describe who developed the program? Tell us about the structure a little bit.
Sure. I'm going to take a step back and say part of it is around our culture, right? If we're going to be this innovative organization that's changing the way healthcare is being delivered, it can't be a top-down company, right? We have to have people who are making decisions out in the field, listening to clients, and have the authority to make good decisions, and not wait for someone who's sitting in a corporate office to give them an answer. So to do that, and that's in any company, we have to become nimble. And that means we have to raise all ships. We have to make sure everyone is on task with what's expected of them. Do they have the tools they need? And do they have the resources they need to make good decisions? And so we started about 4 years ago, Roshal University. It started with a project of mine. So I used to run a couple different residency programs. I was also a fellowship director. I taught at college for about 8 years, and I've pulled from all of those pieces. And we built a year-long program, which is called our Emerging Leaders Program. And we take, it started with sonographers, but we do it for everyone in the company now. And we take things such as finance, right? How to read a profit and loss statement, discussions on management and leadership, how to have difficult conversations with employees, interviewing skills, contract management and customer engagement. We have a whole section on Lean Six Sigma. We do succession planning, change management, and then we have a whole thing around strength-based leadership, right? And that's getting our employees to identify what their strengths are and how do they play to their strengths in a leadership role. And we've been doing this now for 4 years. The past 2 years, we've had about 20 people go through our program. All of our zone managers, regional managers, most of our leads have gone through this program. And what we learned from there is we also needed to build out how to use PowerPoint, right? How to use Excel. We've added trainings around how to use Power BI, right? So you can run reports on your own, whether it's quality standards or your financial information within your market. And now this past year, we've added a whole program on AI, right? How do you use AI appropriately, right? So we're cautious of what we put out there, but how do you use it to make yourself more efficient and effective? And all of this is to, again, raise everybody so that we're all making better decisions for our clients.
Is Roshal University admission only for Roshal employees, or do you accept outside sonographers who are interested in developing some of these leadership skills?
As to date, it's been only internal. We have had actually a couple clients bring that up, like, hey, I wouldn't mind some of our team going through that. And we've talked about it. One of the great points is now we have not just our sonographers, but other people in the class are from our IT department, from our finance department, credentialing department, implementations, and they're all working on projects. And so at the end of the year, and this is actually pretty amazing, and I give some credit to our executive team and our board, because I've worked at a lot of companies and never have employees had this kind of access. But at the end of the year, so we had 5 teams this year as well as last year. We get together and we have their final session, that strength-based leadership, where they get their certificates, but they also present their project as a team to our executives and our board members. And those projects are real projects that we then incorporate into our organization. For example, we have a group this year that presented on employee report cards. It's one thing to say you want your employees to know what's expected of them, but our employees want it on their app. Hey, how did I do yesterday? Not how did I do last year, but how did I do yesterday? How did I do last month? How did I do last week? And so they presented this whole idea, and the board has approved it. We're putting money into it, and our IT department is now working with that group to implement employee report cards right on their phones. But it's that type of thing where I can promise you I've never seen that kind of exposure in any organization for people going through that.
No, that's amazing. Sonographers know how to do ultrasounds, and they know how to operate the ultrasound machine and how to do, the scanning and image optimization, and they know how to navigate through the electronic health record and find the appropriate labs and things. But these leadership skills that you offer, they don't know how to do. They don't know how to do a PowerPoint sometimes or an Excel spreadsheet, and it just wasn't part of our training. So these skills that you're offering are really amazing leadership skills that can lift these sonographers up. And it sounds like other employees who can grow in their profession.
Yeah, I will tell you right now, 3 of our 5 regional managers are sonographers that have, were in our company as sonographers and have grown. Our senior director of operations is a sonographer who was part of this company, and she's grown through all the roles. So yeah, it's for me, it's very encouraging to see what you just said, right? We can give them, they have all these other things. When we give them these other parts, the skill parts, right, of Excel, PowerPoint, to watch them grow and just see what they can do. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it's so encouraging to me to see administration and someone like yourself be so vested in the growth and support of the sonographers and what they need to be better, what they need to grow in the profession. What about retention? Retention is such a challenge in healthcare now. But Roshal's retention rate, like we talked the other day, wow, it is strong. And what do you think is driving that retention rate? You think, this is just an amazing support system you have.
So 2 things. We have a client retention rate that's above 99%, but I'm more proud of our employee retention rate. In typical healthcare, especially in ancillary healthcare providers, it's about 18% churn, right, or turnover rate. We're around 2.5, 2.6 with our full-time employees. And we have had people who leave and then they come back. And I think part of it is the model. The other part, quite honestly, I do believe is our culture, right? This is a place where your voice matters. And I've heard that a lot from our employees that, it happened this week. I have employees who will pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, I had an idea. And they'll run an idea by me that you don't usually have that type of access. We've created this pretty flat organization where you don't have to jump through 7 layers to have a conversation with someone else in the organization.
You're in administration, and it sounds like you're very accessible and very responsive and open to suggestions and feedback. I'll just say from my experience and from what I hear from sonographers, that's not always the case. So this support really stands out. Do you think that culture of listening is part of then why your retention is so strong compared to those national averages?
I would say yes. So 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, we very much focused on becoming that type of culture. And we have built our entire leadership team. I can tell you, our operations team collaborates very closely with our HR, talent acquisition, credentialing team. We have a director of employee engagement whose job is to make sure we continue to drive these type of programs to make sure our employees feel engaged and heard. So we've invested in that.
What about rural sonographers? Is Roshal employing rural sonographers? And then is that area a broader like mileage radius for rural sonographers, or do you employ mostly sonographers that are, from the city?
So it depends, right? Obviously, the closer you are to an urban area, the more facilities you have that you can service. But we have some pretty rural areas where we can get 1 or 2 clients, and it makes sense. Our model does work there. In the frontier and very rural areas, we've actually created a product called Remote Hands, where we do ultrasound and echo remotely. So we have our sonographers at home in an office with a couple different screens, and they can coach an MA or a CT tech or a nurse through either an echo exam if they're an echo tech, or we have 9 different ultrasound exams they can coach the person through. And then our sonographer does all the measurements and all the notes on the PAC system via their computer and sends it off to the provider to be read. So that's been a pretty unique model that we've implemented as well to really reach those far out areas where patients just don't have access to ultrasound.
And those areas are really vast. There are OB deserts.
Yep.
And people not getting the care that they need. Everything you're describing really speaks to something I see every day. Sonographers want to feel supported, and they want to grow and feel confident in what they're doing. And that's one of the reasons why I've been so excited about the collaboration and partnership with Sonotechniques Academy and Roshal Health. It feels like we're both working towards the same goal and supporting sonographers in a meaningful way. Sonotechniques Academy is an OBGYN ultrasound education resource for students and sonographers at all levels of experience. It's mobile and web-based. It's an app. How do you see external education platforms like Sonotechniques Academy supporting what you're building internally?
Yeah, so it's collaborative, right? I don't think either internal or external alone gets us to where we want to be. So we talked earlier about the Roshal University and some of the business stuff we do, but we've also created some training around if our ultrasound techs want to learn how to become an echo tech, there's a whole course they can go through, as well as hands-on using that remote hands technology we mentioned, and get certified in echo. That's a field that we feel very strongly about. We haven't done a ton of work. We obviously do OB work, but we don't have that specialty within our organization. So partnering with someone like you provides that opportunity for our team who wants to get certified, especially when we start adding new clients, to go in, get the training, get some, I don't want to say new training in the sense that I know a lot of them may have had access to it, but haven't used it in a while, right? So they get to brush off some of those skills. And so people like you, and we may look at other cardiac stuff, nephrology stuff, but I see us partnering with other groups in the future as well for that type of specialty.
Yeah. And there are so many sonographers who work in hospitals or other settings that they might not be exposed to as much OBGYN experience as they would like. And so the Sonotechniques Academy app does serve as just a resource or a reference tool to review, if they have a patient coming in for an anatomy screen and forget maybe like, oh my gosh, what all is the anatomy I'm supposed to get? I've forgotten. So it's a good way to review that. How do you see AI impacting healthcare education?
So it's interesting. I'm actually enrolled right now in a certificate program through MIT around AI and healthcare. I think AI is going to change healthcare drastically. That said, I think we have gone through these cycles in the past. I think this is probably a bigger one than we're used to. We can either fight it and get swallowed by it or embrace it. I think what you heard from me is our company wants to embrace it, and embracing that means not just going out and buying some AI package or building your own AI package. You have to have a cultural transformation of an organization who wants to adapt and be part of the AI solution, right? I think there's a lot of fear around AI. I think people are nervous that it's going to replace jobs. And We don't see it that way here. We see it as a tool that will allow our team to make better decisions faster, versus replace people with some technology. And so while we're looking at groups that we're going to work with for AI, we're also looking at how do we develop and train our team to utilize AI and not fear it as we move forward.
Right. I think the AI is going to be and is a supportive tool and not a replacement tool for sonographers.
If you think just for 2 minutes, right? AI right now can already do the reads at a pretty good rate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at sonography, one of the biggest bottlenecks is not getting the reads done in time. So if AI can help us get reads done more efficiently, then the need for the technologists goes up, right? We need more people to do the scans because now we can get them read faster. So I see it as an opportunity for us, not as something we should be afraid of.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And what excites you most about the future of healthcare generally?
I love change. I love innovation. The fact that I get to be a part of a company that has embraced innovation as part of its, lifeblood, watching my team come up with ideas, and not only just come up with ideas that are kind of unique, but then see those ideas and plans all the way through to creation. I love that. I mean, to me, there's nothing more exciting than seeing someone I've invested in for the past few years get to the next level, and be successful, using their strengths and talents to push things forward.
What one thing would you want sonographers to know, or just to take away from this conversation that we've had?
Well, I think I've watched through COVID, a lot of sonographers got burned out. I would say don't get trapped that there's only one way of doing things. Sonography, just like everything else in healthcare, is changing. And if you're willing to adapt, there's I think a very strong, powerful future for you. And consider maybe what Roshal does.
I'm just thinking about the sonographers just, surviving the day and kind of forgetting about how important continued education is and continuing their growth in the field of ultrasound. So Roshal Health really provides, and Roshal University provides all that growth accessibility. What I love about this conversation is that it really highlights what's possible when organizations truly invest in their people, supporting not just the work that sonographers do every day, but who they want to become in their career. And when we do that, we're not just improving the profession, we're improving patient care. I think one of the biggest takeaways today is the importance of listening to sonographers, because when they feel heard and supported, it changes everything. And Roshal Health offers all of that amazing support to your sonography team. Thank you, Joe, for coming on to the Seasoned Sonographer today. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Seasoned Sonographer. If you're interested in improving your OBGYN ultrasound skills and learning more about the field, make sure to subscribe to the Seasoned Sonographer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You don't want to miss any of the upcoming episodes. You can also connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at Sonotechniques Academy. Explore more educational resources on the Sonotechniques Academy app, or reach out via email, lynn@sonotechniquesacademy.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you have questions or topics you'd like for me to cover, feel free to reach out. This podcast is for you, and I want to make sure I'm covering the topics that matter most to you and to the ultrasound community. Until next time, keep striving for excellence in your scans, and I'll see you in the next episode of The Seasoned Sonographer. The information provided in this podcast and any accompanying materials is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice.